So, hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Bex, aka at Princels, and today I'm going to be reviewing some books. Did my makeup, obviously. I don't usually do my makeup, but I was bored, so I did my makeup. I tried to do my hair, but it didn't really turn out, and I thought, okay, well, might as well do a video. Might as well record, so did that. I'm getting over a cold right now, so my voice is really, it's pretty rough. Also, I'm in a different filming location. If you couldn't tell that, you probably could. I didn't feel like going to the attic. It's 90+ degrees out, and the attic is very, very hot right now. So, I am in front of my bookcase on the floor of my bedroom. So that's fun. Like I said, today I'm going to be reviewing some books. I'll be reviewing 3 books on the basis of 5 criteria. The first of these 5 is the characters, then is the story, which is not an actual overview of the story, but more like talking points of the story, what I thought while I was thinking in the story, things like that. Then I'll move on to memorable quotes, thoughts and themes, and a score. And the score is split up into 3 things: a score out of 10, a rank out of the 3 books, so like rank in how does it rank against the 3 books, and would I recommend it? Would I recommend the book? So the books that I read for this video, this is actually rereads, which you can probably tell by the title of the video. The books that I read were I Was Here by Gayle Forman, The 100 Lies of Lizzie, Lovett by Chelsea Sedoti, and Brass by Xhenet Aliu. I looked up how to say her name. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. It's Xhenet Aliu. So the first book is I Was Here by Gayle Forman, so let's get into it. Before I start this, I would like to give a trigger warning for suicidal ideation, because that the main like inciting incident is a character commits suicide. So if that's something that is very triggering for you, please don't watch this. On to the characters. Our first character is Cody. There's only gonna be 2 characters for this book. Our first character is Cody. Basically, so this book, after revisiting it, this read-through, and honestly my last read-through of it, it was not as good as my first memory like held it up as. I still enjoyed it, but it was not as good as I like thought it was the very first time I read it, because there's just like some parts in it that were like, oh. So what I have to say about Cody, she's just sort of like the embodiment of a not like other girls type girl, you know? Not I don't want to say that she's not a pick-me, like she's not going out of her way for men's attention, but she is like a not like other girls type of girl. I do like her character, but she's very not like other girls, and in that way that Forman tries to make her like stand out against every other character, especially female characters in the book, by making her so much not like other girls, which is a thing that I see a lot of YA writers doing, especially when they're writing female characters, is they'll write their female characters like analogs, and it creates this sort of like, well, it's not unrealistic, because I know that there are people like that in real life. It's just like sort of like this frustrating character. So that's just a main part of Cody's character. Yeah, another thing, she's very driven by grief. Like I said, the inciting incident of this book is Cody's best friend, Meg, commits suicide. And through that, you really see Cody is driven by her grief of her loss, and she's trying to understand why Meg would do this, and and you see that, and you get to really see her grief in this book, and it's explored in a really good way. I enjoy how Forman writes Cody's grief in this book. Ben, weird redemption arc. I'm trying to think of what I meant by this. Because was Ben, like, that bad of a character? He wasn't a great character. I just don't think it's, like, weird redemption arc. I've read this book at least 3 times. I don't know what I'm trying to say here in this, I don't know what I was trying to say. So yeah, those are the only 2 characters I have in this, and I don't know. I'll try and give an overview of what I thought of Ben's character. Ben is, I guess Forman writes him as sort of like what's a Mary Sue for guys? But he's not like a Mary Sue in that he never makes mistakes or that he's perfect and can't do anything wrong like that, but like he is clearly written to be like the best guy character. I don't know. I kind of have a skewed perspective. I haven't read this in a while, but like you can see that he's like you know how I said that Cody's like not like other girls, but she's not a pick-me? Ben is a pick-me guy. Like he's like, oh, men are trash. Like he never like outwardly says that, but like that's the energy that he radiates. That's the best way I would describe Ben. Onto the story. So, like I said, when I was going over Cody's character, she is a, like, not like other girls, you know? And I'm just gonna read the line. It's very frustrating to me because, how do I describe this? I'm gonna read the line and then I will go over what I was thinking. I wrote a lot of notes for this book, and they were like well thought out notes too. So for context, Cody has just gone to Seattle. She's in Seattle, right? Or is she in Tacoma? She might be in Tacoma. I think she's in Tacoma. So she's in some place in Washington. I get the places mixed up. But, and she's going to pack up Meg's stuff, and she runs into one of Meg's roommates. Anyway, she goes, I already hate this girl, and when she introduces herself as Tree, I wish Meg were around so we could give each other an imperceptible look we'd developed over the years to register our mutual disdain. It's like, this girl has said, what? 3 words, maybe? 3 to 4 words to this girl, to Cody. And she's like, oh, I already hate her. Because why? Because she's tall and conventionally pretty? Huh? Because she goes by the name Tree? Huh? And it's like this thing again that Forman is doing, is she's trying to set Cody apart from every other female character in the book so that you can tell that Cody's the best female character in the book. And it's this thing, you know, it's this misogyny that's written into books, whether on purpose or just because that's the way it's that it is in so much, like, literature, always classic and contemporary. It's just like the main character is always written as better than every other character, especially if it's a female, and it's every other female character is so much worse, and that they're written off as, well, there's a word. There's a word that I'm looking for. It's like a literary word, but they're always written off as worse characters. And let's see what I have here. it really just grinds my gears. This is a literal stranger, and Cody says, I already hate this girl. I'm trying to justify it in some way, but the thing I keep coming back to is that Forman really is just trying to make her protagonist stand out from every other female character in the book by making every other female character one-dimensional and flavorless. Like they can't have any other characteristics except for, like, this girl's tall and pretty, and I'm not, like, as pretty as her. So next point is something that happens in every one of these 3 books that I will be touching on. So Cody talks about how Meg was basically her everything, and she was like, without Meg, who am I? I can't find the exact quote. I looked for it everywhere in the book, but she's like, without Meg, who am I? Meg was, like, everything to me, and she was, like, my better half and all that. And I basically stated, like, you can't make a person your whole self, you know? You can't make a person a god, right? Because people are flawed. People are inherently going to make mistakes and mess up all the time, whereas and if you worship them, and you see this, like, in stan culture, you know, like, in stan culture, they're willing to, like, forgive any mistakes, and oh, I just felt that's close to my mic. They're willing to forgive any mistakes no matter what, because they've made the people that they stan their gods, right? And it's a dangerous mindset to have, because those people could do, like, basically anything, and they don't care, because they literally worship that person. And that's what you see in how Cody sees Meg, is that she literally, like, almost worships Meg and sees her as this god, and she places her so high, and she can't see that she makes mistakes and that she's human, just like Cody is. And it's less like that she's worshiping her, but she literally doesn't see her as human in a way. She sees her as, like, higher than everyone else, and that she is, like, almost a deity. And it's bad, because if she makes a mistake, then what's that going to do to Cody's perception of reality, you know? Like, it's not only dangerous for Meg, because Meg has to then live up to all these perceptions of what Cody sees her as, but then it's also dangerous for Cody, because if Cody sees that, oh my gosh, wait, Meg isn't as perfect as I thought she was, then it's gonna mess with her own perception of reality. And yeah, she kind of put herself in that own corner, but, like, you see what I'm saying, right? Like, it makes sense. Anyways. Alright. I really liked, like I said earlier, I liked how Forman wrote grief, right? And I liked how she wrote Cody's, like, descent into madness because of her grief, right? As she like, further got onto these forums, if you read the book, then you'll understand, but as she's on these forums where they encourage people to kill themselves, you can see that, like, she's not all there, like I touched in my last point with her losing this person that she sees as a god. Like, she's missing that person who sort of, like, completes herself, or that she sees as who she needs to sort of look to as a figurehead or something, or you know, to guide her. And as she lost that, she's sort of, like, trying to find or to search, and she's like, this is, like, very lost, and so she, like, sort of descends into madness, and you really see that descent into madness followed by this grief, and it's like really, really in there, and it's hard to read. Like, some of this stuff is, like, oh my gosh, it kind of makes your skin crawl, and it's not, like, nice to read in any way, but, like, it's pretty well written. Like, it's not, like, the best written, and it's definitely not the best written that I read even in these 3 books, but it's pretty well written in showing grief, and I thought it was very beautiful. I don't think beautiful is actually the word. I thought it was very fitting of those feelings of feeling so lost without this person and feeling like you're scraping for something and then you're losing your mind, you know? In this book, there's a quote stated by this person who sort of becomes a main character-ish, and it's something like, the opposite of bravery is not fear, it's conformity. Let me try and find it. Okay, the opposite of bravery is not cowardice, it's conformity. So, I like I said, I've read this book at least 3 times. I'm gonna say I've read it 3 times. I don't think I've read it more than that. And I've never agreed with this quote at all. And it's actually a quote by some man named Robert Anthony. And I don't agree with this quote. Because when you conform to something, it's not always because you're afraid of something. Maybe you just like what's popular, right? Huh? Like, maybe you just like popular fads, or you like popular music, or you want to try something that's very popular right now, or you need to like when you're driving and you need to conform to road laws, like when you conform to laws so you don't get arrested, that's not being that's not cowardice. So this quote just is very illogical, and I understand it in some ways, but like, it's just not a smart quote. I think that's where I'm gonna leave this. There are a lot of... No, I'll leave it here. I'm gonna leave it here and move on to the quotes. So, there's just one quote I have on here. And it is on page 87, said by Harry, who was one of Meg's roommates. And it goes, "You never really know people, do you?" So thoughts and themes. Really, the biggest theme in this book is grief. Is just being, like, losing someone and feeling that overwhelming feeling. And it's not just sadness, it's just, it's taking over your mind and being unable to breathe and unable to focus, and you can't do anything. It's just, you're out of your mind, you know? That's what it is. Okay. Alright. So this is just, I only had like one big post-it note, which is what I use to like jot down my thoughts for the thoughts and themes part. And I say, this is about the very first, and it's the way Forman begins and ends this chapter is so wonderful to me. And it's just talking about how Meg, you know, how Meg sent out an email, and how it's just like, she sent out an email that was basically her suicide note. And then it goes into like all the details of it, and it's very harsh opening scene. Like, if you did not know what this book was going to be about, if you just opened it up, like, it would be hard to swallow. But it's good. It really sets the scene of the rest of the book. I thought it was well done. So now we're going to move on to the score. So for a score out of 10, I give this book a 10 out of 10. Because of the nostalgia it holds in my mind, I think this book will always hold a 10 out of 10, no matter the criticisms that it validly has. I do like this book, and I think it is a very interesting book, philosophy-wise, and just everything. It just, writing, I think the writing it's pretty good for YA standards. If you've read anything else by Gayle Forman, I know she wrote, what was it? If I Stay. I didn't like that one as much as this, obviously, but, I think it's pretty good. It holds up to those standards, and I do really enjoy this book. I put it at third out of the 3 books I read, just because I like the other books better than this book, but I still really enjoy this book, and I do recommend this book. If suicide is not a triggering thing for you, then I would recommend that you read this book. It is a very beautiful book in my mind. Now on to the next book. Alright, and we begin. Again, before I start this part of the video for this book, I want to offer another warning, a trigger warning for suicidal ideation. Because while not as, I don't think, while I would discuss it in this video, I don't think it's one of my points. If you do decide to go out and read this, it is in the book. So that is something that you should be aware of, and I want to offer that before I get into the video. So now let's get into the video. So our characters. Again, I only have 2 characters for this one, and the characters are Hawthorne and Lorenzo. There are a few more characters who I could have reviewed, but I just felt like I was going to get into these 2 characters who are the ones that we see most of in the book. So, first is Hawthorne. Hawthorne is, first of all, a wonderful protagonist. I want to say that. I love Hawthorne, even though she's, so annoying sometimes as a character. I love her, maybe because I am, a lot like Hawthorne in a lot of ways. I really love Hawthorne. But, okay, I said she's selfish and a little bit spacey, again, a lot like me. Very imaginative, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it also, she gets a little bit too much and too in her head and too out of reality sometimes, so it's a little bit crazy, so. And then Enzo, or Lorenzo, he's I'll just read, gross, gross, first of all, selfish and never took accountability, immature. Yeah, those are good words to describe him. He really never did take accountability for any of his actions at all, and he sort of always blamed it on that free-spirited artist thing, but when you're doing some of the things that he was doing, you can't blame that on being a free-spirited artist. He committed actual, I don't know if they would be considered crimes technically, but if you have to say technically it's not a crime, alrighty, come on now. So, yeah. Then I'm gonna move on to the story portion. Alright. So like I said in the I Was Here review, both of these next books, this one and Brass, there are characters who the protagonist holds up to this almost godlike position, and in this way, Hawthorne holds Lizzie up in that way. But for Hawthorne, Lizzie is less holding Meg up to this standard as someone to guide her, and more of she's this perfect sort of ethereal sort of unreal type person, you know, like a sort of fictional character almost, so much so that like nothing could ever happen to her. Like in this line here that I marked, I said, I just didn't believe anything bad could really happen to a girl like Lizzie. That's not how her life worked. Like, she's so perfect in Hawthorne's mind that nothing bad could ever happen to her, and that's what I mean by that. And that's dangerous too, because like if anything bad ever did happen to Lizzie, and does happen to Lizzie, then like it sends Hawthorne spiraling out of control, you know? And that's why you can see that it's a dangerous thing, you know? To put a human on such a pedestal, or to put anything on such a pedestal, you know? This next thing here, moving on to the biggest gripe I had with this book. Enzo. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 whole notes about how gross Enzo was. 9 separate times. And I want you guys to know that I don't usually take notes over things that I've already mentioned before, because I'll just usually like I'll touch on them again. But this was something that like made my skin crawl. It made me want to remove my brain and put it in a vat and just have it sealed away. It's just... Okay. So, basically, Hawthorne, the 17-year-old, the sort of the irrational, bad decision-making, kind of unstable, a little bit unstable 17-year-old meets Enzo, is attracted to Enzo, and then Enzo initiates, well, yeah, they get into a romantic relationship, right? Oh, let me just say, Enzo's 25. So that's an 8-year difference there. Plus Hawthorne is 17, so she is a minor. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this man, and he just like, he knows that Hawthorne is attracted to him, right? And he knows that she like has this weird obsession with his ex-girlfriend. I just realized I didn't say this. Enzo it was the ex, well, not ex, they dated when Lizzie went missing. Enzo was Lizzie's boyfriend. So he knows that Hawthorne's attracted to him, and yet he still spends all his time with her, right? And then kisses her, agrees to go to homecoming with her, actively pursues a relationship with this girl, right? Like, he's the one with the fully developed frontal lobe. This girl isn't, and she obviously has poor decision-making skills because she's the one who decides to go looking for a werewolf. She obviously, like, and he knows she's not a werewolf, like, Lizzie's not a werewolf, and he, like, he's very aware of that fact, but it's just, he's a grown man, and he has the opportunities to put a stop to this relationship, and he chooses time and time again not to. So that's what my main problem with Enzo's character is. He's a very, very gross old man. He's a gross old man. Who preys on a 17-year-old girl. Because he's lonely. Because his girlfriend went missing. And that's why he does it, because he's lonely. So he thinks it's okay that he preys on a 17-year-old girl. Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. And I get it. It's a book character. But I'm allowed, because there are people like this in real life. I'm allowed to get angry. Don't tell me you've never met someone like this in real life. Moving on to the quotes. I've got a lot for this book because this is a very, like, quotable book. There's, like, a lot of good, like, I don't know. I really love this book. It holds such a good place in my heart. Alright. Why was so everyone... No. Back it up. Why was everyone so desperate to be illogical all the time anyway? As if growing up meant you couldn't even talk about something unless you thought it was real. Hawthorne, page 76. The world is whatever you want it to be. Sundog, 206, and I want to give context for that one because that one it can be misinterpreted. So, for context, Sundog, read the book and you'll know who Sundog is. But, Hawthorne says to this character, Sundog, she says, the world is dark. And Sundog says, the world is whatever you want it to be. If you choose to make the world dark, then the world's going to be dark, but you don't have to choose that path. And obviously there are more dynamics to that. Like, obviously sometimes the world is dark and you don't choose that, but... like, sometimes you are actively pursuing what makes you miserable, right? You don't have to, and that's what I really take this quote to mean. The world is whatever you want it to be. I used to think there were so many rules about how people could be. Maybe I was wrong. That's Hawthorne on page 221. You only know the part of the story people want you to know. Sundog, page 337. Such a quotable book. Especially what Sundog says. Running from your demons only gives them more power. Sundog, page 346. Sometimes it's better not to know the ending. Hawthorne, page 368. Nothing ends. It just turns into a different story. Hawthorne, page 379. Can you understand why I'm so obsessed with this book with quotes like that? I'm not kidding. This is my summer book. Like, this is the book that I go back to every summer, and I just, cracking it open. I know how this book specifically smells. Like, I have the memory of this book specifically ingrained in my brain. Oh my gosh. Okay, and thoughts and themes. Identity. I want to say that this is not a theme that is for sure set in stone 100%. I'm really bad at identifying themes, but from what I saw was identity and how we perceive others versus how we perceive ourselves. Like Hawthorne was sure that Lizzie was this perfect angel and that she could never ever compare, and in reality that just wasn't true. So that's what I saw coming through in this book. And so the thoughts, oh my gosh, another thing that's so great about this book is that the chapters have titles. Like, you never see that in books anymore, and these chapters have titles. Oh my gosh, bring it back, y'all, bring it back. And also bring back tables of contents, because I love opening a book, seeing the tables of contents so I can flip to that page, because I don't use bookmarks. I'm not using a bookmark. I lose bookmarks too fast. Yes, it's so cute too, because I love to see what like people like title their chapters. It's just adorable. I love that. Okay. This is about the writing and how Sedoti writes writes. Okay, so yeah. So Hawthorne's voice is so strong throughout the book. It's written through her perspective, like it's a first-person perspective book, and Hawthorne's view on life is so much different than everyone else's view on life. So her voice is so strong, and like it helps Hawthorne become more of a real person to the reader, because her voice and her perspectives on life are so much, like, they're so different and they're so much stronger in that way, and it's very good, and it gives the book a lot more depth, and it makes it such an interesting read, and I really, really enjoy that. There's a lot in this book that is like stuff that is like very realistic in a way that, but like there's like little twists on reality, and it's very cute almost. So like I said, I love this book, and I can't rant and rave about it enough. I love this book. Will always be my summer read. Okay, this one too. I like that Sedoti is creating scenarios where Hawthorne isn't always in the right, and that she owns up to her flaws and mistakes. It makes her more three-dimensional and more believable. That helps this book become more realistic, because the characters this is young adult fiction, so like in my last book in my last video I was talking about how Emma Straub made her characters very real because she created them with flaws, right? And their flaws were very real, and that helped them become like 3D characters. This is what Sedoti does with Hawthorne also, and in scenarios where Hawthorne's like, oh my gosh, you know what? I am not in the right here, and I need to apologize for my mistakes instead of just trying to cast off blame on other people. And it's a really cool thing to see characters do that, because, you know, in that way you'll sort of like take that onto yourself and stuff like that. It's very, very interesting and cool and awesome to read, because it makes the book more realistic and a good read. It gives it more depth and makes the characters more believable and more interesting to read and gives them more depth, and it's just, I like when books are good. Okay, so last but not least is a score, and this one is also obviously a 10 out of 10, and I put this one second out of 2, just because the next book, oh my gosh, yes, I obviously recommend this book, but like I said earlier at the beginning of this video, I want to offer a trigger warning for suicide. Alrighty, so our last book is Brass by Xhenet Aliu, which is, I'm pretty sure how you say your name. It is a Albanian name, so I had to look up how to pronounce it, but I am pretty sure that is how you say it, so. Alright. So first is our characters, and there's three characters for this one. So our first one is Elsie. This book does a thing that I generally enjoy in books, is where it does split perspective, but it's split time, so it goes back and forth, and it also does a split perspective in that it goes split, it goes from third person, or is it first person? I can't remember if Elsie's are in first person or in third person. I think it's third person to second person. So I like when they change point of view also in those. I don't love split perspective, but I like when they do something different with split perspective, so at least it adds a little twist to that. So first is Elsie, and Elsie is both written as an 18-year-old and as an adult in Lulieta's chapters. Elsie is she's a very, what the word I would use best to describe her is resilient. Like the title, she is brass, she's resilient, like hard as brass, and she's strong like brass knuckles, and she doesn't give up, and she loves Lulieta. Lulieta is her daughter, and she works hard to give her daughter the best life that she can, and it's just, she loves and she works hard and she is resilient against everything life has thrown at her. And then Lulieta, who I mentioned, she's who the second perspective chapters, the perspective they take, she is she's a lonely character. She's grown up with just her mother and her grandmother in her house. She never met her father, and she's just searching for a family, just longing for a family, that she's just like longing. That's the word I would best use to describe her. And then lastly is Bashkim, who is basically the worst character. He's a jerk. He cared about Elsie when he found out that she was pregnant because he thought she was carrying a son, but then Lulieta was a girl. So, anyways, so on to the story. Again, with the parallels between these three books, how Cody held Meg up to the godlike position, and then Hawthorne held Lizzie up to the godhead position. Lulieta does that for Bashkim, in that she's never met Bashkim, right? And this is in a way that is unlike the other two characters, because she hasn't met him. And so she reveres him in this way that she thinks that all her problems in life will be fixed if she only met this character, if she only knows this character. He can solve my problems. He can fix everything. He will be my savior. So that's how she sees this character, because she sees everything in her life is awful, and that in contrast to her father, her mother is sort of the one who has doomed her to this, because her mother took her away from her father for very good reasons. Her father sort of I'll touch on it later, but her mother was the one who took her away from her father, and so she scorns her mother in this way, and that's why she holds her father up to this position, because she's never met him because of her mother, who in her eyes put her in this position. And so that's why she sees her father as he will save me from this life that my mother, who took me away from my father, he will save me from this life that my mother put me in. So that's what I see. Again, all of these characters have a character that they see as sort of a higher being. First, I want to say, so Elsie is in community college, I think, to get a dental hygienist's degree, which is a noble thing to do. Her Elsie's boyfriend also works at the community college, but Lulieta sort of sees that as is it Lulieta or is it Greta? It might be Greta, but they sort of see this as as a lower thing, and it's not. It really isn't, because, why? There are a lot of jobs that having just an associate's degree can get you a lot more money than having a bachelor's degree, but because of the way society has shown things, having a bachelor's degree is so much better, is seen as being so much better than having only an associate's degree. But that's really not true, because there aren't really, there are some things that you need to have a bachelor's degree for, but there aren't like a ton of things that a bachelor's degree is gonna help you with. Like, okay, you want to be a lawyer or a doctor, or like yeah, there are a couple things, but you want to own your own business. I don't personally see like why you would need that. Just take a couple classes on how to run a business and start one. You don't need a full degree on that. If you are money savvy, I don't think you need a bachelor's. If you're not money savvy, then probably don't be starting a business, though. That's just my opinion. Don't be like, oh, I saw this video and they said I don't need a bachelor's, so I'm just gonna start one. That's not what I'm saying. But like, you don't need a bachelor's degree to do everything. Okay? That's just what a society and higher education has programmed you to think. There are so many jobs out there where just having a associate's degree, or not having even any degree, just having your GED is gonna be fine. So higher education is a scam. That's what I'm trying to say. This, okay. After Elsie moves out, Yilka, who is Bashkim's aunt, goes over to Elsie's apartment, and she basically says, oh, Bashkim is so sorry, please come back, he wants to be in the baby's life, please come back and you guys can live together, and blah blah blah. And Elsie's like, no, if he was really sorry, he would come over and apologize himself. And that is such a great move, because yes, because you are in no way obligated to accept an apology. And I just want to say, like, it's not even that she was like, no, I'm not moving back. She said, no, I'm not accepting this apology. Because you are in no way obligated to accept an apology that does not feel genuine, and that is sent from someone else in a way because you just feel like they're trying to get something out of you, right? You're in no way obligated to accept that apology. It is not your job to accept an apology from someone else. All right, and that is all I think I have for this story portion. It's a really good book. I do want to mention that it's very, very good. Okay, so moving on to the quotes. The first quote is, "An impossible dream was better than no dream at all." That's from Elsie on page 25. And then, "I think you are young and dumb. I don't think you're bad." On Yilka, page 154. And this is a whole excerpt. Because the book is called Brass, and the whole thing about like their city is like it was a brass manufacturing city and all that, and then it sort of just like died out, and they had to figure out new things to do in the city, and it's sort of dying. So that's what I'm gonna read this. "What is more lasting than brass? Almost everything in the city was more lasting than brass. The toxic mud the mall was built on was more lasting than brass. The hunger of the wailing baby outside the social services office was more lasting than brass. The rubber on my sneakers, the second-hand New Balances with still an inch left of soles, I bet even they would be more lasting than brass. Everybody here was more lasting than brass. And that made us stronger, didn't it?" That's from Elsie on page 157. Kinda a really cool quote, isn't it? And that brings us into our thoughts and themes, because like the biggest theme I saw in this was a theme of like resilience and perseverance and pushing on through everything life throws at you, and being more lasting than brass. Like, that's what you see in this book. Okay, I forgot about this, but it's so, it reminded me. So I was like, yeah, okay, it's written, Lil Yata's chapters are written in second perspective, but then it's like, "And when Elsie gives birth, she refers to the baby as you." Like, just like that little thing, like, how it ties it together. You know how in my last video I said I just like the little things that bring things together? That's what I'm talking about. The tiny details make a book better. Anyone can do the big things. Not everyone can do the little things, you know? The little things. Okay. I think that's all I'm going to mention for my thoughts and themes, because all of these were just like little things that I already mentioned throughout. Okay. Ugh. For the score, again, this one is a score at 10 out of 10. I put it first out of third, obviously, and I also would recommend this one. However, for content warning, if you're like weary about like sex scenes, and there's also like a graphic birth scene, I would kind of maybe, I wouldn't stay clear of it, but skip those pages, because that's in there. It's kind of gross. And that is all. That was my review of I Was Here by Gayle Forman, The 100 Lives of Lizzie, Lovett by Chelsea Sedoti, and Brass by Xhenet Aliu. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you made it this far, you deserve a prize. Thank you for watching if you did watch, and if you didn't watch, no thank you for watching. Please check out my Instagram, or not, and that's all I have. Okay, bye!